Thanks for listening to Uncle Sam's Soccer Podcast, keeping you up to date with the latest in American soccer. And don't forget to subscribe.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jake Watroba, and welcome to Uncle Sam's Soccer Podcast. As always, I'm joined by Armand Kafai and Steven Jodaran. On this episode of the show, we speak with MLSsoccer.com writer Sam Stejskal as he helps us preview the upcoming MLS season. Please make sure you subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts, and make sure you leave us a 5-star review. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at UncSamSoccerPod. Leave us comments, questions, concerns. We always enjoy your feedback. Now, let's get to today's episode. Fellas, how are you guys doing?
We're good. MLS is a week away, guys. How excited are we?
I'm so excited to see all those white MLS jerseys. Woo! Woo!
I didn't know Ric Flair was on this episode of Uncle Sam's Soccer Podcast.
Aren't you all excited to see those white jerseys? That Black Diamond Colorado Rapids jersey that's white?
Actually,
White
that's a nice jersey, I have to say. It's
No,
nice.
I like it, but it's white, but Black Diamond, like,
It's a bit misleading, right?
yeah, I feel kind of catfish, you know? It's like when you go look at it, you find a chick on a dating app, and it's not what it seems, you know.
It's not what
I
you
think
signed up for.
I think we all know what catfishing is, Armand. I don't know. We don't need to talk about your personal love life.
Yeah, you're right.
Seriously, though, 2019, guys, are we actually excited for MLS 2019 to begin? Because there's so much soccer, and we have so much access to soccer. It's just like another league that begins. You know, you have the Premier League, you have UEFA Champions League, you have the CONCACAF Champions League, you have international friendlies, and then all the domestic cups, and then you have the Indian Super League to track. I mean, there's just so much soccer. How is MLS gonna capture our hearts again?
MLS is our league. Come on. Our league has to capture our hearts.
I don't know, Armand. I mean, he did say Indian Super League.
You're right.
I know that there's the Premier League, there's La Liga, there's Bundesliga, whatever. But the Indian Super League, that's a tough league to compete against.
I'm excited for MLS. I mean, it's one of my favorite leagues to watch. Even though it feels like it takes forever sometimes. And there's so many fun games that happen, even though there's some pretty bad ones as well. But overall, I'm pretty excited to see what happens, and I'm excited to see Zlatan year 2. I don't know about you guys. I mean, I'm really excited to see Zlatan year 2 and see how he's going to perform in his second year in MLS.
Yeah, I'm definitely curious to see if he can break every record in MLS like he said he's going to. But yeah, I'm definitely excited for MLS to start. I'm kind of sick of being a fake fan, a quasi fan of one of these European teams and just kind of casually watching along. I definitely want to see some domestic action and to see how it's just see MLS unfold. I mean, it's always different every year too. So I know Steven's the Euro snob. He's the resident Euro snob on this podcast. So I know he's not as excited as Armand and myself may be, right, Steven?
No, it's just another league I'm gonna have.
Steven hates MLS.
I don't hate MLS.
No. Steven has a trend. When Steven first started doing podcasts, he hated MLS.
No,
Steven.
I went to the games.
No. Okay, what's the games, but I don't care. Then Steven started liking MLS, and then we started doing his pod. He started loving MLS, and now it's back down to I hate MLS. So there you go. This is the trajectory of Steven's MLS love and hate. So I don't think it's an accurate opinion to ask him how he feels about MLS starting up.
It ebb and flows when he, depending upon which
the Revs.
No, it depends on which market he's living in. He was a huge MLS fan when he was living in Dallas, and then he moves to Madison. And now he's full Mingo.
He's a big League One guy. Full Mingo.
He's a big League One guy now.
Yeah, I'm gonna pay attention to more League One. That's for sure.
I would.
I mean, I'm not kidding. I will, just because I have a team in my backyard. It's a lot easier to track and follow the club that's in your backyard versus a club that's hundreds of thousands of miles away. Anyway, lots of storylines headed into 2019 MLS. Let's just quickly begin with some formatting change. This is the 24th season of Major League Soccer. 24 teams, guys. FC Cincinnati joins the Eastern Conference after winning the USL regular season last year. So, yay, promotion. Woohoo! Somebody's getting it this year. Some new soccer stadiums coming up. Allianz Field in Minnesota. Jake, how excited are you for that?
It'll be all right. I don't know.
Oh, wow.
Should be fine.
Wow.
Should be fine. It'll be okay. I don't know.
Well,
ask me on April 13th when we April 13th or April 12th, whatever day that Sunday falls on. Ask me when we record the show, and I'll tell you how great or not great Allianz Field is.
Oh, we will absolutely get your hot take on that. Playoff format changes, fellas. Only one team gets the first round bye. There will be 7 teams from each conference in the playoffs, so a total of 14. Furthermore, a whole calendar flip, Armand. This is massive.
I really like the moves because they're trying to beat out the whole that weird lapse when you have that November FIFA break, and they're trying to beat it out, and they do a good job of doing that. They get the MLS Cup right before those FIFA dates, and I think after we saw what game was it? It was DC and Columbus, that game, that one-off, that knockout run game with the atmosphere, the passion of that one-leg game. I think it kind of made sense. Hey, we should go one leg, and we should go one leg playoffs. And we've seen the competitive, I guess, disbalance between, teams that have a higher seed versus teams that have a lower seed, and the lower seed usually advancing over the guys with the higher seed because they have that first home game. I think it's a massive change. I think it's going to be a good change. I think we're going to see a lot more entertaining soccer, contrary to what other people think, that you're going to see more tournament football.
Yeah, so MLS Cup will be on November 10th, which is a Sunday.
Can I give my one gripe? Can I give my one gripe about the format change?
Oh,
Let's hear it.
Here we go.
Is there any reseeding after the first round?
There isn't. That was one thing
I don't like that. If the 7th seed beats the 2 seed, the 7th seed should have to play the 1 seed, not the 3 seed or the 6 seed.
You know what I would do? My solution is drawing of balls. That's what I would do. Higher seed host the game.
Oh my god, that's all he talks about. I swear that's all he talked about.
It would be so cool to see. I don't know, anticipation of the matchup. How cool would that be? They do it for the FA Cup. That's fun. It's a spectacle on TV. This is a way for MLS to do it. Think about it. If the NBA did this, or freaking NFL. Do you know the TV eyes glued to television? The TV ratings for that? Massive. I'm telling you, it's a good idea. It's going to happen. I'm pretty sure they're going to do some sort of ball drawing. Maybe with the U.S. Open Cup. That might be first. Anyway, 6 new MLS coaches. Frank de Boer at Atlanta. Luchi Gonzalez at FC Dallas. Mark Dos Santos in Vancouver. Mateus Almeida at San Jose, who might look to be leaving already. Guillermo Barros Galotto at LA Galaxy. And Mr. Caleb Porter in Columbus. Fellas, out of the 6 coaches, which coach are you most excited to see at their new club?
There's a couple coaches actually on here that have me intrigued. I mean, obviously Frank de Boer I think should have us all intrigued just to see what he can do in MLS and what he can do with all that talent. I mean, judging by their CONCACAF Champions League result last week, he might need to go back to the drawing board and rethink some things. I think Matias Almeida is also somewhat interesting too, just because, as Steven alluded to, this guy might already have one foot out the door trying to get back to Mexico. And Scalotto with LA Galaxy, I mean, that's a big name hire for MLS coming from Boca Juniors. He's got Zlatan Ibrahimovic to work with, who wants to, again, break every record in MLS. What can he do with LA Galaxy? Can he restore basically bring them back to their glory days of a few years ago? So those are a few names I'll be watching or that have me interested. Armand, who do you like?
So you talked about half the list. So I'm gonna have to.
Well, just talk about the other half. Just talk about the other half.
I'm just gonna talk about the other half. Yeah. I've seen a lot of Luchi Gonzalez, obviously, at my work at Pro Soccer USA for FC Dallas. I'm really interested to see what he's going to do. He seems to have very, now don't call me crazy, but Pep Guardiola-esque ideas in terms
Crazy.
of in terms of in terms of wanting possession of the ball, a high press after losing it.
Berhalter? Is this
Attacking.
Berhalter-esque?
It could honestly, it can be. It honestly can be. Gonzalez is a lot more tactical than Oscar Pareja was. I would say I'm really interested to see how that's going to go with him. I think, look, I don't think FC Dallas is going to win every game they play, and they might lose the way the style they play, especially when you play out of the back with players that some of them aren't comfortable playing out of the back. But hey, like, why not? I don't think MLS Cup is like the main priority. I think it's building a base and going towards MLS Cup in the following year or the year after. With Mark Dos Santos, I'm interested to see him. His last head coaching job was with the San Francisco Deltas of the NASL. They won the title over the Cosmos and they folded. So he went to he was the assistant coach under Bob Bradley, and I'm really interested to see because he had a lot of success with the Ottawa Fury as well. So I think Vancouver is honestly one of the wildest cards. Some of the players they signed, I'm honestly not sure if I've ever heard of them. And also the way he's going to coach, I think it's been kind of under the wraps. We've heard a lot of Luchi Gonzalez, as I have, but not that much of Marc Dos Santos. And Caleb Porter, I mean, can he revitalize the team? Does that sabbatical really help? Are we going to see a really impressive Columbus side, or are they going to take a dip because Greg Berhalter was so tactical and had specific instructions? I'm interested to see how all these coaches do, to be honest. But, Jake stole my first list.
Wow. There you
Sorry,
go.
babe.
So we basically just previewed all new MLS coaches, 5 teams in the CONCACAF Champions League. Obviously, go back and listen to our show yesterday with Joseph Lowry where we discussed those teams in CONCACAF Champions League. Let's move it on here. Sam Stejskal will be joining us on the line.
Joining us right now on the show is MLSsoccer.com's Sam Stejskal. Sam, thanks for joining us today. How's it going?
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on, guys. Going pretty well, thanks.
Sam, thank you so much for joining us today. Let's get started in the Western Conference here, more specifically with the LA Galaxy. Are we going to see the Galaxy make a move to be roster compliant, or is MLS actually going to try and grant some sort of exception for them?
Well, there's not going to be an exception. They are going to have to make a move. Giovanni Dos Santos might still end up on their roster, but if he does, he's going to have to be bought. There's going to have to be some sort of arrangement where his salary is at $1.5 million or less, and he's bought down with targeted allocation money. So I expect that will eventually happen at some point here in the next few days. Obviously, opening day is next Saturday, so they have to do it before that. I'm not sure roster compliance date has been officially announced yet, but usually it's the Thursday or so before the season opener. So they're going to have to figure this out here within the next 96 or so hours. And, but there's not going to be an exception. They're not going to be allowed to pay Giovanni $4 million or $6 million this year and have him on the roster with their other 3 designated players. But by hook or by crook, I think he'll be back.
Sam, what type of team will we see out of the LA Galaxy? We know what happened at the end of last season. Ibra comes out. He wants to win. He expects himself to break every MLS record possible. But is it realistic for the Galaxy to be a contender at the end of the season?
I think so. I mean, if they make it into the playoffs, I wouldn't really want to bet against Zlatan personally. And I fully expect them to make it into the playoffs. I think what we saw from them at the end of last year was the most part positive, except for that last 45 minutes against Houston in the finale. But I think they kind of got the formula right. And I think that's some sort of a 4-4-2 with Zlatan and Ola Kamara up top, and then Sebastian Lletget and Jonathan Dos Santos in the middle. They have a new center back, Diego Polenta. I believe that he played alongside Daniel Steris in their final preseason game with Jorgen Skelvik at left back, which is his actual position, and not where he was playing last year, which was at center back, where he had a ton of pretty well-documented struggles, and it was one of the major reasons why they had such a tough go last season. So they weren't far off, obviously, from making it into the playoffs last year. Under the new format, they actually would have made it in seventh place. And I expect their defense to improve. Their attack should still be great with all of the talent that they have up there. And I fully expect them to be back into the playoffs. And with the new format, single elimination, anything goes, right? And if I'm in a single elimination game, season on the line, I want Zlatan on my team.
Absolutely, Sam. And last week, you reported that the Colorado Rapids, were locking up Kellyn Acosta, and then they announced that they were locking up Kellyn Acosta, Diego Rubio, and Keegan Rosenberry. What was the thinking behind that for the Rapids? Obviously, Kellyn has that 50% of his transfer would go to FC Dallas in 2020. What was the thinking behind those moves for the Rapids, and what do you personally make of those transactions?
Yeah, so on Acosta specifically, you mentioned kind of the key factor there, that through 2020, 50% of any transfer fee would go to FC Dallas. So they had offers that they turned down this winter, one for $3 million and another for $3.5 million. But when you consider the fact that half of that is going to Dallas, it kind of makes sense why they would turn that down. Now locking him up, his previous contract was going to expire after 2021. He had this year guaranteed and then an option season next season. So if you don't lock him up, you're not going to get any good offers that you're going to keep all 100% of once you get within 12 months, right, of his contract expiring, because then teams can sign him for a pre-contract 6 months before it expires, and then just get him for free once he's a free agent. So if they want to ever move him on, they kind of needed to get him a new contract and needed to extend it. But I think I see him as a key piece as well. With the other two, and this is sort of kind of the overall thinking with the Rapids, they feel like they have some decent pieces, some decent young pieces with Acosta and Rosenberry and Rubio that they can build around. They don't have the high-end pieces that the best teams in MLS have. I don't think there's any secret about that. But they don't really have the ability to go get one right now because they have Tim Howard and Skels and Gashi on the books for one more year. So when those contracts expire at the end of this year, they'll go out and they'll get two younger designated players. I'm not saying they're going to break the bank or anything like that, but they'll probably go out and get a number 10. Maybe they'll go out and get a striker. Maybe they'll go out and get a winger. Some attacking players they can really invest significantly with. And the idea is that those two players, or maybe even three players, depending on how things go, will kind of carry the team. And these guys that they've locked up will be, I don't want to say complementary pieces, but will kind of be the key pieces around them that they hope can take them up a level or two and get them to be a consistent playoff team.
Well, Sam, you kind of answered my next question here, but I'll ask it anyways. You've talked about all the additions they made this winter with Rosenberry, locking up Acosta. They also added Benny Feilhaber and Diego Rubio. Is this team going to surprise some people this season?
I think they have the potential to. I just kind of went through and did like a little bit of a first draft of a playoff list. I didn't have them in. The West is tough. I think if they were in the East, I would feel better about their chances, certainly. But no, they have the potential to. They have some decent pieces. Jack Price, Kellyn Acosta, Benny Feilhaber in the midfield, Cole Bassett in there is a young guy that they're high on. Kai Kamara and Diego Rubio up top. The question for me mainly with them is that back line, and are they going to be able to stop people? And I don't really think they are, or at least not well enough to kind of compensate for any sort of growing pains in the attack as all these new players come in and sort of adapt to a diamond midfield, which is a hard system to pull off. So I think they'll miss out, but I think by the end of the season, if we have the same conversation again next year, we could be looking back at Colorado saying, okay, they finished 8th, they finished 9th in the West, but I like that team going into 2020.
Sam, is Sporting KC kind of flying on the radar at the beginning of the season right now?
I think they were before they beat Toluca 3-0. I don't know if they are anymore. Kansas City, what can you say, right? They're just completely consistent. You know exactly what you're going to get with them. And I think there's a little bit of an unknown this year, dealing Iko Para, and how is Andre Fontos going to look, and how is he going to hold up over the course of the whole season? Early returns last year, he couldn't break into the lineup. His first game this season looked pretty good. But Kansas City are really deep. They're strong in just about every single position. I fully expect them to contend for the top spot in the West in the regular season, and they'll probably fly under the radar compared to the Seattles and LA teams and even Portland's of the world. But yeah, I mean, Peter Vermes is going to have that group back contending for the top of the West, I think, once again. So yeah, really strong team there.
Before we move on to talk about some of the Eastern Conference team, Sam, in your eyes, what makes the West so stacked compared to the Eastern Conference this season?
It's interesting. I think we talked the narrative around the East and the West the last couple of years was that the East had overtaken it. And I think at the top of the conference, that has been true. Atlanta obviously have been the class of the league. Red Bulls are right there with them. Toronto have taken, it seems like, a pretty big step back, but they were there. But the West is just a lot deeper. When you try and pick the 7 teams for the playoffs, pretty early in the East, you get to, there's a lot of big question marks here. But when I'm thinking about the West, I can just rattle them off: Seattle, Portland, Kansas City, LAFC. I think those are all locked in playoff teams for the most part, barring catastrophe this season. And then you have the Galaxy, and then you have Houston, and then you have RSL, who I think will make it. And then you have some teams below them: Minnesota, Colorado, Dallas. Dallas, you can certainly make an argument that they'll be in that top 7 for sure. That they're right there. And I wouldn't be surprised in the least if any of those 3 teams made the playoffs. When you look at the East, you have Atlanta, you have the Red Bulls, you have DC after them, and then sort of what's next, Columbus should probably be in that mix, New York City, but there's a lot of questions there. Toronto FC, we saw what happened to them in Champions League. And they're down Vasquez and Javinko and still no replacements. They will get them in, but it's kind of like, okay, you have Atlanta and the Red Bulls, but what next? And in the West, there's just a lot more depth, in my opinion.
All right, Sam. Let's move it over to the East then, and let's talk with the defending MLS Cup champions in Atlanta United. Is there anything you saw from them on Thursday night that you would find concerning? Now, I get it. This may be way, 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 way too soon to read into the performance, but is there anything you saw that kind of left you, I guess, shaking your head or concerned?
There are a lot of things that left me concerned. There are not many things, if any things, that can't be pretty easily corrected, however, in my opinion. I'm not really worried about Atlanta in the long term. That's a unique environment for your first game as head coach and trying to install a new system for Frank de Boer, right? And I think he made a couple of key mistakes, right? I don't know why he put Michael Parkhurst out wide and Miles Robinson in the middle. You want Parkhurst in the middle to organize. You don't want him out wide due to his lack of athleticism. Robinson has that athleticism. He can run with guys. He's probably a more comfortable one-on-one defender, certainly on the break, than Parkhurst is. That's a really easy fix that, would, I think, make them much better right away, right? Darlington Nagbe, I'm sure, will get his way back into the lineup. Obviously, he had his, drama during the preseason would be one way to put it. But he's happy and back with the team now, so I think he'll get his starting role. I think that makes them better right away. They're going to have to figure out this new system for sure, and they're going to have to figure out Barco, who I thought was, really pretty bad in the Champions League. If they don't get much out of him, then that's a concern, certainly. But another thing that's really easy to correct, Leandro Gonzalez-Pirez was terrible in that Champions League game. He's not going to play like that all the time. He's a good center back. He does have a bit of a high risk playing style sometimes, and we saw how that came back to burn him against Herediano. But again, things that can be corrected, things that can be ironed out, and things that I expect will be corrected and ironed out even as soon as their second leg. I actually expect them to beat Herediano and get through. So I'm not concerned long term. Some warning signs there, sure. I think they can and should be easily corrected, though.
I guess it's a question of time. We'll see what happens with Atlanta United. My other question with Atlanta United is, are we going to see a team that is so dominant like we saw last season, even though that they didn't go on to win the Supporters' Shield?
I don't think they'll be quite as dominant, just because, that's second year with mostly the same group, and they're losing probably their 2 most influential pieces from that group, in Tata Martino and Miguel Almiron. So even though they have the most talent in the league and they have the most expensive team in the league, And I expect, I mean, on paper, they're the best team in the league. There is going to be some adjusting, right? There are going to be some things that they have to iron out. So are they going to be 70 points again or whatever it was last year? Maybe not. But I fully expect them to be contending for the Shield, if not winning it outright.
Now, Sam, with FC Cincinnati's addition into the offseason, they've signed, I guess multiple might be an understatement, but multiple defenders. Lots of center defensive mids. That interesting acquisition of Nick Hagglund for that first allocation spot. What do you make of what they're trying to build for FC Cincinnati? And do you think this team could compete for a playoff spot in the East?
Well, I'll answer your second question first. No, I do not. I don't expect them.
He agrees with me.
At all. And I would challenge anyone that does think that to just. I mean, they're going to be under siege almost every single game by design, and that just takes its toll over a whole season. And they don't have anyone in the attack that can pull a string. It's going to be strictly defend and counter, and hope for some good luck on set pieces. Which, to be fair, they have some good weapons on set pieces. So they should be pretty good at those. But, I mean, I think when I look at Cincinnati, I don't think they're going to be good, obviously. I don't think they're going to be embarrassingly bad, however, this season. I think, they kind of looked at Minnesota and saw what happened to them, particularly at the beginning of their expansion season, because by the end of their first year, Minnesota were actually getting some respectable results in there and didn't finish that terribly. But, they're not going to give up 70 goals, right? They're not going to bleed 7-1 results, 6-1 results, right? They're not going to be that type of team. They're going to, ideally, if everything goes right for them, they're going to make things really difficult. They're going to be really tough to beat at home. And, Fernando Adi is going to be engaged, and Greg Garza and Elvis Powell and Darren Maddox and Roland Lamar are going to be able to get him the ball in dangerous positions, and they're going to sneak some goals past you, and they're going to win a lot of 2-1, 1-0 games at home and fight you and make things difficult when they're on the road. I just don't think that's going to be enough over the course of the season. I don't think they're going to be terrible. I think they're going to be a respectable underdog, if that makes sense. But in the end, I just don't think they have the quality to really be a contending team for one of those top 7 spots in the East.
Sam, moving it to the Crew, who have now been saved, we have new leadership under Caleb Porter. Do we see the Crew competing again like we saw with Greg Berhalter and a fan base rejuvenated to come back to and support their club?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's largely the same team for the Crew. I mean, Milton Valenzuela going down is a big blow for them, certainly. And, new coach, new system, or we'll see actually how much of a new system. I expect Caleb Porter, to keep things pretty similar, but there will obviously be tweaks here and there. And yeah, I expect Columbus to come back, and be Columbus again, be solid, be consistent, be strong in the back, get goals through Giassi Zardes. And really, when I look at them, Justin Miram and Pedro Santos didn't really produce much at all last year. So if you can get more from them going forward, then there's no reason they can't be a better team this year. So, we'll see. But Columbus are pretty rock steady, in my opinion, even with the coaching change. And I think good things will be on the horizon for them, with Caleb Porter and new ownership and Tim Bezmchenko running the club there in Ohio. I think they'll start to spend more money going forward. And I think they'll be, I think if they keep things going, there's no reason they shouldn't be a player for years to come.
All right. Final question from us, Sam. If I'm going to give you 2 slots, not just one, but I'm going to give you 2 slots. Name 2 players that we should watch in MLS that could move to Europe, that we could be talking about as potentially being kind of like Almiron or even like a Tyler Adams at this time next year.
Oh, interesting. That's a good question. Albert Ellis is a guy that jumps out right away off the top of my head. I don't think he's going to have the sort of impact that we've seen Almiron and Tyler Adams have already with their European teams. But, obviously he had some very public transfer rumors and reports going around. So it would not shock me if he's a guy that ends up sold here within the next 12 months. In terms of other guys, God, I'm blanking on names right now. But I mean, Lucho Acosta, right? Obviously there's the PSG interest. Again, I don't think he's a guy that will have the sort of impact that an Almiron or a Tyler Adams will in Europe, but, certainly one that could move. I don't think, but, we'll see there. I expect more young players to start to head over. I think this is kind of a real paradigm shifter for the league this offseason, just in terms of, the money got so much bigger in terms of outgoing transfers. And the fact that Almiron and Adams in particular have had such an impact already. And obviously it's very, very early days for both of them, particularly Almiron. But the fact that those guys are playing well sort of validates MLS as a market in the eyes of European clubs. And I think you're going to have more and more teams coming over here. You're going to have more and more MLS teams willing to sell. I think the owners' thinking on these things has sort of changed a little bit. And I think the prices that Almiron and Alphonso Davies went for in particular are going to set the market in a place where MLS teams simply aren't going to be able to turn these offers down. And so I think it really was a paradigm shift this winter in terms of MLS becoming more of a selling league. And no one should take that the wrong way. That's a good thing. Every league in the world is a selling league. Every team in the world, including Madrid and Barcelona and Man City and all these teams sell players. Every club sells players. So MLS will hopefully be more involved in that ecosystem. I think that will only mean good things for the league. There will be some changes, but more money, it'll mean more money coming in, which will likely mean more money going out. Which will hopefully mean a better and improved product on the fields and more fans and better soccer and everything we all want to see. So I think it was kind of a paradigm shift this winter, like I said, and I only expect more and more in the future.
Well, Sam, we appreciate your insight. I want to give you the opportunity to go ahead and plug yourself, where we can find your work, where we can find you on Twitter, and anything else you would like to include.
Sure. Yeah, so thanks for having me on, first off. But yeah, you can find my work at MLSsoccer.com, doing a lot of writing and doing more video stuff this year for them. And then on Twitter, just at my name, Sam Stejskal. That's STEJ, and then that should pop up from there. But yeah, I think that's all I got. But thanks again, guys, for having me on.
We appreciate it. Thanks again, Sam.
Thank you so much to Sam Stejskal from MLSsoccer.com for joining us. A lot of good insight there, a lot of good thoughts, a lot of good opinions. Guys, what were your biggest takeaways?
I guess I'm gonna say I'm kind of aboard the Colorado Rapids mystery train, if that's a thing. I'm interested to see how they do. I mean, if they have this long-term plan, as Sam was saying, of let's get these guys to support some young DPs and see Tim Howard and Gashi's contracts expire. I mean, that kind of gives a longer leash to Anthony Hudson, though, because this is kind of like season 2 of the soft launch, and then you're going to see them evolve and go spend some money in 2020. I'm interested to see how that goes. And, I think the Rapids are going to be a really interesting team, and I'm interested to see how they're going to do, especially when you lock up, Kellen Acosta long term, which I don't know what that means for his MLS career. He's against an MLS rest of his career. Honestly, I'm not sure. You get Diego Rubio, who, I was playing around with some numbers earlier last year, and he was one of the more efficient scorers in MLS, if not one of the most efficient scorers in MLS in his limited time. I think Keegan Rosenberry, who had a phenomenal rookie campaign, but kind of fell off. A lot of these changes are really interesting for me, and like Sam said, maybe we shouldn't expect them to compete this year, but I'm interested to see how long of a leash they give Anthony Hudson, especially, if they really are planning towards goal, all in 2020.
Yeah, my big takeaway is the fact that he says the West is stacked compared to the East. I mean, if you look back last season, Red Bulls and Atlanta United were the runaway trains of the Eastern Conference, and then everybody else. Meanwhile, in the West, it seemed to flip every other week. Some other team was the 1 seed, and it just continued to flip. I wonder how that's going to play out this upcoming season. Is there going to be a power conference, or will we see the same thing like last season, where the East seems to be dominated by 2 clubs, and then there's everybody else, and the West with all the transactions, say like a Colorado's made, we don't know what's going to happen with FC Dallas. We know FC Dallas record over the course of last season under a different coach, albeit. Minnesota, they've invested heavily. Will they be able to compete? The Galaxy are going to want to do something. Then you have LAFC, RSL, you have Seattle, Portland. These teams that seem to be competing for playoff position. We don't really know how the seeding is going to work out for the West. I think the East seems to be a little more predictable.
My biggest takeaway from the interview, and you guys have alluded to it in text messages to me since we spoke with Sam, or at least during the interview. Sam is not on the FC Cincinnati hype train like I am.
Oh, Sam is one of us. He's one of us.
No, wait. I don't know what's. I haven't jumped trains yet, or I haven't even boarded a train on FC Cincinnati. I'm still at the station.
Oh no, I'm on the train with Sam. We're in first class drinking, a couple brews. Like this is
first class, and you're drinking brews. You should be drinking.
Okay,
whiskey.
Man, some rosé. What do you want me? Okay, man, like chill out.
Rosé, whiskey, something
whiskey,
classy.
Scotch. Something fun.
I'm inexperienced, okay? Relax. I just turned 21 like 6 months ago.
Yeah, we know. Move it on.
Anyway, I'm just saying he's just not on the train. He did say he wanted to take anyone to task who thought they'd be good this year. And I'm not saying they're going to be great or fun to watch, but I just think with all the added defensive depth, I think they can give teams problems. And I get that they really don't have any attacking pieces outside of Fernando Adi. But they are going to be the anti-Minnesota United. They will give themselves a chance week in and week out because they aren't going to bleed goals. And I think if they're able to get, points on the road away from Cincinnati, I think that'll bode well for them as long as they can turn Nippert Stadium into a fortress.
Do you think, Jake? Let me ask you this: do you think that sure defensively they're fine, but the lack of offensive, as Sam kind of was talking about, the lack of an offensive outlet, wouldn't that just prolong them to more and more pressure, and then it could be just like a dam that just finally breaks in the end?
Yeah, it could, but didn't we also see the Colorado Rapids do this a few years ago too?
Was it 2 or 3 years ago on their Maschereni with Jermaine Jones? Yeah, is that what
they were just they didn't concede any goals really in Colorado. They were the best defensive team in MLS. And they just grinded out results. And look, Sam even alluded to this too, which if you're going to say the East is soft after Atlanta United and New York Red Bulls and DC United, obviously, if you're going to say after that the talent in the East really falls off, I don't think it's that outlandish to say, hey, FC Cincinnati might find a way to sneak into the playoffs. Well, that about does it for today's show. Make sure you keep an eye out for tomorrow's episode, where Joseph Lowry of The Athletic joins us in the counterattack with yours truly. We'll give our predictions on how we think everything will unfold in MLS this season. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at UncSamSoccerPod. Follow Armand Kafai on Twitter at Armand Kafai and Steven Jodran at Steven Jodran. And you can follow yours truly at Jake Watroba. Again, please make sure you subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts, and make sure you leave us a 5-star review. For Armand and Steven, I'm Jake, and we'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Deuces.